Hello, my name is Craig Seibert, and this short webinar is titled Organizational Structure, Advice from a Representative of the Black Race. And this is a continuation of the discussion on Moses and the relationship to his father-in-law Jethro, who is from the lineage of Ham, the dark-skinned son of Noah, who represents the black race in Bible times and in today's times. And he gave this advice in Exodus 18, 20 through 24, and we're taking a look at the last two verses in Exodus 18, 22 and 24, and taking a look at his advice on structure. So the structural advice that he gave is that Moses should appoint these leaders that we discussed in the previous webinar as officials over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. An observation here is this: having a well thought out structure with division of responsibility, understandable processes, and clear lines of communication really makes civil society or civil government work. And so in Israel, there were 600,000 families, almost 3 million people that left Egypt and now is under Moses' leadership. And before this advice came from Jethro, any person that needed counsel or justice would go directly to Moses. And Jethro's advice is really excellent at this point as far as how he says to organize. He says appoint officials over thousands, so there'd be 600 leaders in Moses' sphere of influence that provide leadership for 1,000 family groups. Appoint leaders over hundreds, so 6,000 leaders over 100 family groups, 12,000 leaders over 50 family groups, and then ultimately 60,000 leaders over 10 family groups. And so it breaks down the overall government into layers and layers of local government. Now, what he says about this system is have these officials serve as judges for the people at all times. Again, just a reminder that these judges or civic leaders are servants of the people. The other thing I note here is judges for the people at all times. I think this would imply that justice would be applied quickly, which always makes for a healthy society. But have them bring every difficult case to you. The simple cases they can decide for themselves. And so another observation on this structure is difficult cases come up the ladder. And if you go back to this diagram, what this would mean is that as a lower level leader runs into a situation that they're not able to handle or they don't have the wisdom to discern next steps, those more and more difficult cases would come up the ladder. And so very interesting, the advice that's being given here. Moses did what was suggested, and Moses listened to his father-in-law and did everything he said. And we see this whole thing play out in Exodus 17. Jethro finishes by saying, that will make your load lighter because they will share it with you. So as you implement this structure, ultimately you have new leadership development, and new leaders grow as they enter into civic or civil service at lower levels and then progress up the way. If you do this as God so commands, you will be able to stand the strain and all the people will go home satisfied. So finally, societal stability speaks to the fact that the people will be satisfied. Well, very interesting that a representative of the black race provides this advice to Moses, and then those two things, Moses and the Ten Commandments, this advice is then implemented or begun to be implemented in 1787 when the founding fathers of the United States began to really look at the system of government we would have. At the lowest levels, there'd be individuals in our society that would be self-governing individuals. And then there'd be family government, where we'd take responsibility for our families to raise them well and healthfully. There'd be local government of villages, towns, and cities. There'd be county governments. There'd be 13 state governments at that point in time, and then a national government. And so that's what it looked like when it was set up in 1787. Today it might look, or it looks the same, but just the numbers are larger. Where you probably have 100 million family governments or so, meaning 100 million families in the United States, maybe hundreds of thousands of local government, village, towns, and cities. Maybe we've got on the order of 5,000 county governments, 50 state governments, and a national government. And so American constitutional principles and structures are ultimately influenced by all the ethnic groups. Moses was a son of Shem, a leader, and he's a recipient of the Ten Commandments. Jethro, a son of Ham, father-in-law of Moses, gave the advice of the requirements of civic leadership and how to structure civil government. And I just used the phrase son of Shem, son of Ham. What I'm implying there is of the lineage of Shem, of the lineage of Ham. And then the Protestant reformers, that would be John Knox, Martin Luther, John Calvin, the pilgrims that came in the early days to this continent of the United States, then the founding fathers, all sons of Japheth, spent centuries of sacrifice in trying to apply Moses and Jethro and Jesus' teaching to create a civil society that cherished freedom and liberty. Today in the United States, what we need is an understanding that we're all in this together, that all ethnic groups are represented, that a rebirth of understanding of freedom and liberty would prevail on our land, and that there would be a new desire for character-based leadership in civic realms. We need a cherishing of the Declaration of Independence and Constitution as the principles of structure of a free society, because the principles really are high ideals to aspire to, and that as a nation we would keep working toward those goals. We need a realization, as I've said already, that all ethnic groups have been represented in some fashion along the way. We need to trust God, and then we need leaders of all ethnicities who will lead with character and toward universal truth. And so the question I leave you with is, will you be one of those leaders? My name's Craig Seibert. Thanks for listening.